बॉलीवुड के जूनियर बच्चन बच्चन सन कहलाने को लेकर काफी ज्यादा डरते रहे। अपनी करियर में जिन्होंने तमाम फ्लॉप फिल्में दी, फ्लॉप करियर को लेकर हमेशा बात करने वाले, खुलकर अपनी करियर को लेकर बात करने वाले अभिषेक बच्चन ने हाल ही में अपने पिता अमिताभ बच्चन को लेकर कई खुलासे किए। फिल्म खुदा गवाह जो अमिताभ बच्चन की अच्छी फिल्म में से एक है, उस फिल्म की शूटिंग के दौरान अमिताभ बच्चन को लेकर अभिषेक बच्चन क्या सोचते थे और क्या क्या कहना है उनका, ये हम आपको उन्हीं से सुनाते हैं जो काफी इमोशनल होकर अपने पिता के बारे में बात करते नजर आए, अपनी करियर में की गई सबसे बड़ी गलती का खुलासा करते हुए। सुनिए क्या कहा अभिषेक बच्चन ने।
Now, I was speaking to Anil Kapoor recently, and he told me that there was one point in his career when he wanted to take a break, or a sabbatical as it were, and your father, Amitabh Bachchan, is the person who he approached. I think they were working in a film together, and he immediately told him, never ever do that. Keep working. You had the same man in your house. Did he not give you the same advice?
Firstly, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and thank you. Oh. That feels good.
See, you shouldn't have taken that self-imposed hiatus.
You know, Mayank, when I decided that I needed to take this sabbatical, I was very convinced that this is what I needed to do for myself, for my career. And the decision had been made. I mean, obviously, normal table conversation, I did tell my family that this is what I was planning to do. And my father, he did respond with a similar, I mean, I don't think he was as emphatic as he would have been with Anil, but he said, look, you know, I did this and it's the biggest mistake I made in my career. Right. And are you sure you want to do this? And I mean, it's your call, but he gave me his opinion. I think times were different when he did it. In 1992, if I'm not mistaken, when my father finished shooting Khuda Gawah, he decided for various reasons that he wanted to...
Which was a great film, by the way.
It was, yes. Yeah. That he wanted to take a break. And after 5-6 years, he was kind of coerced into coming back. In those days, when he came back, he felt he had lost touch with what the audience wanted. Also, in that interim period, there was an entire new generation that had come into watching movies, but more importantly, there was an entire new generation that was making movies. The likes of Suraj Barjatia and Aditya Chopra had come in and left their stamp and changed Indian cinema and how the audiences wanted to view cinema, what kind of heroes they wanted. Suddenly from the angry young man, it became the romantic NRI hero. So when my dad came back, he felt that, oh my God, I'm still doing the kind of films that I was doing in the late 80s, early 90s, and that wasn't working. That was why he felt it was a mistake. He felt he lost touch. I was very aware of this, because obviously having, you know, lived through that phase with him. But when I decided, I think times have changed, there's a lot more information, you're a lot more accessible. And plus, I wasn't planning to, you know, go off into the mountains and just vegetate for like 2 years. I was very sure of how I wanted to execute this plan of mine. In fact, taking the break and stopping making films was actually the first step of the plan. It was the first step of the execution of the plan. This is something I've been thinking of for the last 4 or 5 years. All my friends are from the film industry. The people I socialize with on a normal basis are from, in some way, the film industry or the media. So I think, and today you have social media as well, and I think it's very easy to keep abreast of what's going on, what kind of films are being made. So I wasn't really removing myself from this world. So I was very sure of that I'm not going to lose touch. But more importantly, it was a very personal decision where I felt I just needed to recalibrate how I was working. It wasn't the kind of work I was doing, it's how I was doing the work. And I was very confident in the kind of actor I hoped to come back as. I had more confidence in that actor than I did in the doubt of, oh my God, am I going to lose touch? You know, out of sight, out of mind. You know, are you going to be left behind? All these kind of things. So I was more confident on the person that I aimed to become. And I think that's the difference between my dad's time and my time.
Yeah. Right. I mean, one of the words to describe a summit, perhaps if we were to translate in Hindi, would be a manthan, right? Self-introspection. And that's precisely what you did. what was the conclusion from that self-introspection? Not that you went to the Himalayas, you were obviously working, you were doing various things at the same time. But what is it that you learned because you took a step back to be able to see a larger picture?
It kind of just emanated from a place where I just felt I'd become very complacent in my professional attitude. It's a bit of an irony, you know, we spend, I'm sure in most fields, but in cinema you work hard to attain a certain level of material comfort as well. I mean, let's all be honest with ourselves, you know, that is a big part of our lives. And once you attain that comfort, then you just start coasting along with it. What happened with me professionally is I was in a phase where I was making some very successful films. I was getting paid some very good money. I had no pressure to deliver a hit because that was on a fellow actor of mine. I was in a very comfortable, happy space. I was working with some of my dearest friends, having a great time making
You mean
movies.
Happy New Year, Houseful 3?
Yeah, all
Right,
these
right,
kind of films,
right.
you know. And what happens is once it works, then you do another one because you know it works. Then you do the third one saying, this is really easy. Life isn't meant to be easy, especially films. Filmmaking is definitely not meant to be easy. As a creative person, as an actor, especially today, it's very important to be uncomfortable. It's very important to be challenged on a daily basis. When you know, can sleep peacefully and wake up and say, yeah, I can do this with my eyes shut and I can just coast along, it's a great space to be in.
Right.
I'm not going to, you know, lie to you. But what happens is I realize that if I carry on like this, what I'm bringing to the table in terms of a film or a project is going to keep depleting film by film. Because I'm not contributing anything. I'm just there, I'm having a blast.
Getting paid well.
I'm getting paid well, and the films are becoming, you know, 200, 300 crore
Right.
films. But if I'm going to stop contributing to my project, in 2-3 films times, my producers are going to say, hey, why do I need him? I'll take somebody else. So you become disposable. I wanted to stop before I reached that stage. I said, no, you need to stop. You need to take a step back and just recalibrate, like I say,
Sure.
re-energize, come back with a lot more focus, and come back with a plan. You know what had happened with me, Mayank, and I've known you for so many years, and I mean, I'm sure there are people here who I've met. I mean, Jyoti's here. Jyoti's known me since I was a kid. You know, people don't believe it, but even though I'm born and brought up in this film industry, and this film industry is my life, it genuinely is. Making movies is something that I am most passionate about. I love the film industry. I love making films. I love watching films. It's my world. Now what happens is, when I got the opportunity to become an actor, and I say I got the opportunity because another thing people don't believe is...
Right, I was going to ask you that question at some point.
It wasn't easy comings for me in that sense. You know, everybody would have thought being Mr. Bachchan's son, there was a line of
No,
producers.
so did you make that shit up, that you actually went for 2 years from one producer director's office to the other? Because everyone in Bombay should have a struggle story. You are Amitabh Bachchan's son, and it takes you 2 years to make a debut. I refuse to believe it.
There's my life story for you. They refuse to believe my truth as well, yeah. No, the only difference is I did not entirely go to all the producers' offices.
Okay.
Sometimes they came
They
to
came
my
to you as well.
father's. It was a bit of both. I was at that point working for my father's company as a production boy and as an assistant director. And that's when I was trying to get a job as an actor. And shockingly, which should have been a reality check for me, which I obviously didn't let it impact me as much as it should have, was most of them, and all the ones that said no to me, said it saying, no, we don't want the responsibility of
Right.
launching Amitabh Bachchan's son. Because they realized what that would take. And then suddenly, you know, one day, as a blessing, in walked Mr. J.P. Datta, and he had just made Border, and he offered me a film,
Right.
and I jumped at the opportunity because obviously it's J.P. Datta, why would you not want to work with him? But what happened after that is, it's just, you're like a kid in a candy store. I was just happy as an actor to have a job, to go out there and make movies, and guess what? I was enjoying it.
Right.
Maybe some of the results I wasn't enjoying, but by and large, the process was wonderful. So I never really laid down and say, hey, what do I want out of my career? What do I want to achieve? How do I want to go about achieving it? I was just happy being an actor, getting a job, and getting to make
getting
movies.
your next film and your next.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I needed to rethink that. So these are the kind of things
So
that I did.
you constantly say this, Abhishek, that this version of you that we see is version 2.0. Is it version 4.0? Is it a thing that you start thinking about, even from mortality point of view, legacy point of view, when you're like 40 plus, I'm like, boss, can't continue like this forever. Could age have a factor, be a factor in this?
I'm sure it could. It wasn't for me.
Okay.
Who's 40, me?
No, you're 25.
No, I'm 42. But it's how old you feel, you know. No, age really wasn't a thing.
No?
But I think
Maybe having a child.
maybe time spent being a professional is.
Sure.